And we're back.
Oh, we're back already? Oh, geez.
We're back already.
I wasn't even finished with the logo.
Now we're just twitching.
Everybody, welcome to another episode of Twitching UpStream. We'll get there soon. Currently, we're just twitching up. We are Some Nobodies. I am Zack, and this over here, that guy is Dylan. Together, what we do is we create. We write, we create, we sometimes even film things. And what we want to do is we want to kind of show people our weird process of doing that. So we have a show called Talking UpStream, and that comes out every Sunday. And what that does is we have a guest on there that isn't a creative, and then we kind of throw some ideas at them. And we love that show. It's a great show. It's an easy way for us to build things in our project portfolio, but we also like to do things where we get to interact with people live. So we wanted to create a show where people could just watch us live, try to create something. They could throw some ideas at us. They could, just swerve our conversation.
Tell us good afternoon. Hello, Jason.
Tell us, oh, hey, Jason Taylor. Nice to see you. Good afternoon, sir. Yeah, so that's what this show pretty much is. I throw ideas at Dylan, and he helps me organize them, structure them, make them into better ideas. But before we get going, until some people get into the chat, and like I said, if you have any ideas that you want to throw into this thing, just throw them into the chat. If you're watching this on Twitch, if you're watching this on YouTube, if you're watching this on Facebook, anywhere like it, just like and subscribe. It helps us, obviously, but also we throw a bunch of weird content out there. McManhattan, how are you, sir? Good to see you. Good to see you. And before we start the creating thing, because we don't have anyone to interview, and because my best friend Dylan doesn't always respond to my text messages, I like to throw out some quick questions to him based on what I find important in pop culture media news. He doesn't find it as important, but because it's a live show and he can't dip out, he's got to answer this stuff for me. So we're going to get into DC news. Snyder Cut's coming out soon. And a couple of days ago, and this is what I was going to talk about initially, a couple of days ago, they posted a Flash ad, like an ad for the Snyder Cut, mostly showing the Flash. But at the end of it, it says now streaming. And a lot of people are making jokes about how the Flash went back in time, back blah, blah, blah. But today, for some reason, there was a weird glitch where if you tried to watch Tom and Jerry, you got to see Snyder Cut by accident. I'm curious if you think that this is any kind of weird promo. So, quick question. Was this a way to get people to watch Tom and Jerry?
I can't imagine, because I don't know how anyone discovered this. Are people actually going to watch Tom and Jerry?
Well, I watched Tom and Jerry. I mean, I was curious about it when it first came out, so I did watch it. I think that now, once people found out about that, they would click on Tom and Jerry just to see if it's a Snyder Cut.
A glitch.
Which would boost our numbers. So I don't know if it's a real thing or not. So yeah, that happened. Very weird. I don't know what's going on with this. I'm so excited to see this movie, but I don't know if the promos are getting weird. People are freaking out about the Snyder Cut. All right, let's move on to Marvel news. WandaVision. Obviously, the series finale. At least season finale was last week, and we're probably getting a little bit of spoilers.
We're gonna spoil it.
Yeah, you watched it, right?
It.
End credits. What'd you think of the end credits? My question.
The shape.
So obviously there was two end credits. There was the Skrull end credit, and then there was the post credit, which is the astral form. There's a lot of people talking about the astral form and wondering what that means. Do you think it's a Doctor Strange reference, or do you think that she's hiding from somebody by having one form of herself that is just dealing with trauma and drinking tea, while the other form of herself is learning the Darkhold?
I didn't assume the astral form was to hide. I assumed she was just multitasking through magic. That's straight up. Obviously I think she's in hiding, but I think Marvel most of the time treats hiding as you go into this cabin. That's it. You're going to go hang out in this cabin for a while. That's how they've had everybody in hiding.
Now, speaking of that cabin she was in at the end, there's a little bit of speculation as to where that is. Now, she's at a lake, right? So there's three main theories as to where that place is. The first theory is that is where, like, they keep Wolverine. You know, whatever that alkaline lake, right?
Yeah.
Which is where what's his face has Wolverine. I don't really think so. No. The second theory is that it's Sokovia, and that lake is the crater that was made by what Ultron did by carrying up that bit of land and crashing that, which is kind of cool. But also, there's people there thinking that it's Wundagore Mountain, and Wundagore is where Wanda first got her powers in the comics. It's also where the Chaos book was created. So do you have any theories on that, or do you think that's just a random mountain spot?
I think the finale episode of WandaVision showed us what Marvel thinks of our theorizing. I don't think it's any of them. I think it's a cabin. I think it was just a cabin on a lake they had. Cool. I think the most likely one, she's absolutely going to be in Doctor Strange.
Yeah, she's on the cast list.
I think the most likely one is that it's probably going to be tied to Wundagore. I don't think Sokovia. I think that's dumb, because it wouldn't make a neat lake like that. And it was too picturesque. It didn't look like Sokovia's surroundings, which was kind of like mountainous, but not snow-capped. Like it looked like Scandinavia or something like that. Like I imagined it was further and more in, like, you know, some rural northern locale. And I mean, Alkali Lake, I think this entire series has shown the futility of trying to tell us when the X-Men are going to cross over. Plus, Alkali Lake is not a comics location, right? That was invented for the Snyder, not the Snyder movies, the other movies.
No, that is comic accurate.
That's a comic accurate one. Okay.
Yeah, that's where the weapon projects were taken.
I don't buy it. That feels like stretching to get your like universal cross theory through.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, that's pretty much me stretching things. Also, it was released that there was a deleted scene. I'm not sure if you heard about this or not. There was a deleted scene that kind of showed what Senor Scratchy's ultimate form was going to be. As we've seen that he was a big deal, that the rabbit was a big deal throughout the course of WandaVision. And yesterday on Kevin Smith's show, the writer, Matt Shackman, came up and said that there was this deleted scene where there was supposed to be this very cool body horror thing where the rabbit turns into her, because the rabbit is her familiar, and it's this big kind of werewolf thing, and it stretches out and becomes this werewolf and then chases the thing, but they had to cut all that. So I think that you're right. I think WandaVision shows the length that we can go with assuming certain things. And I think that their casting of Pietro, the way it was, Pietro,
that fed it. That definitely fed into it.
Absolutely.
I am bummed that we missed out on a grotesque transformation scene, because I found the final confrontation between two very powerful witches to be incredibly disappointing. We fly around and we throw softballs at each other. I like the rune stuff. The rune stuff is cool, but it equated to Wanda throwing, red lasers at her, and I'm like, do something clever, do something fun. We had that Facebook discussion a while ago about what the best wizard battle on film is, and it kind of wavered between the Merlin fight from Sword in the Stone and the Dumbledore Voldemort fight in Harry Potter 5. Those are two very different wizard duels, and they're both very good, but they're good in different ways. One is spectacle, and one is magical, kind of like cleverness, turning into a disease, that sort of thing. And I expected more in either direction from WandaVision, and instead we got this kind of like it was a TV one. It was.
Well, from a writer point of view, though, on the other side of that fight was the Vision v. Vision fight. Mm-hmm. Now, using the ship of Theseus as a battle, a mental battle, how did you feel about that?
That was the perfect confrontation between Vision and Vision. That was exactly how it should have gone down. They start by fighting because, tensions are high. They have a moment to discuss, and then they're both like, we're perfect. We are perfectly rational intelligent, like artificial beings. Should we talk about this? And they do, and they come to a philosophical arrangement, and it ends without any more blows being thrown.
Yeah.
That said,
quick question. Where did White Vision go?
I don't know. I was just going to say the conclusion felt rushed overall. Wanda beats Agatha. She does something horrific, which is lock her in the role of being the sitcom housewife. That's horrific, and I liked that because that was definitely a dark moment for her. But it was like, okay, we fought. I did it. Family's gone. Hex is gone. Bye, and then she leaves. There was not even a post, like an epilogue featuring like what happened to the town or what happened to Sword. Hayward's end was really abrupt. Vision pieces out, or like White Vision pieces out. I don't know. I had to remind myself towards the end that it is supposed to be a Marvel property and it's going to tie into things forward. But I think there's still room to at least wrap things up while leaving more room to tie into future things. And I don't think this one struck that balance.
Now there's kind of one more episode. They're putting out a behind the scenes thing this Friday.
It's like a making of, isn't it?
Like a making of behind the scenes. I'm wondering if we're going to get anything out of that kind of leads us or anything. Because then the following week is when Falcon and Winter Soldier comes on. So
yeah.
All right,
I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, that's cool. Because that mostly takes place in Madripoor, which is a pretty famous X-Men location in the comics. So they're really doing things by setting the MCU in X-Men properties. And they just released that new title, The Mutants, which is hopefully the next big thing they're working on. All right, over in Star... I thought you were Mephisto. Okay, in Star Wars news. Now, I'm a huge fan of Star Wars. I love Rebels. I love Ezra Bridger. I think it's a very, very cool character. And current rumors is they cast Mina Masood as Ezra Bridger, who is the titular character of Aladdin. Did you happen to see the live action version of Aladdin?
I have not seen that yet.
Okay, do not waste your time. Other than him,
that's not necessarily true. I watched it on an airplane between the seats ahead of me, with no audio. So I saw like the parrot fight and that sort of thing. And I was just like, I don't need to go back and watch this.
Yeah. It's not great. It's not really worth it. It's somewhat entertaining, but Aladdin's performance is great. So I'm excited for him to pop into the Star Wars universe. I think he was rather catching. He was a good looking dude. Nerd universe. Okay, so we have Godzilla versus Kong coming out soon. That's this month, March 31st. What are your theories? What's going on in this movie? What's happening here?
It's either Mechagodzilla or Mechaghidorah. Godzilla and Kong are going to fight, and then they're not going to fight, and then they're going to fight a different guy. Based on the trailers, it looks like they are following the Toho recipe for Mechagodzilla, or for Godzilla versus Kong, where two monsters team up to fight a cybernetic version of one of them. And that's every team up movie, which is fine. Now, I don't care about the story in these monster movies. Everybody's like, the human story wasn't great. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm here for the monsters destroying scenery. I'm there for the spectacle. Expecting anything deeper is a mistake. In a Godzilla movie, that's not like Shin Godzilla. There are obviously exceptions to the rule. But I am going there to see giant monsters destroy each other on destructible scenery. And if they nail that, I'm going to walk out satisfied because I'm going to watch it on an HBO Max and not pay any money for it beyond my subscription.
Yeah. But I'm curious how they're going to get these two, if Godzilla is like the protector of nature or whatever, and King Kong is the protector of Skull Island, and they're forcing these two creatures to fight. I'm curious why. Is it an entertainment thing or?
So here's my theory, and this is based on the old Mechagodzilla storyline. They capture Kong, they start off and they're like, Godzilla's attacking humans. He doesn't normally do that. I thought he was a buddy. So they capture Kong because they're like, what other Titan is around who's friends with humans? Well, back in the 70s, Monarch did this whole thing with John C. Reilly. and they're going to take him to probably I guess Monster Island is Skull Island in this continuity, but they're going to get Godzilla to fight Kong as a way of just like a control. And it's going to be brutal, and people are going to be like, wow, maybe Godzilla is a bad guy. And in one of the fights or something, they're going to hit him with a missile, or he'll get hit by Kong or something, and a piece of his skin's going to be blown off, and there's going to be metal underneath. And it turns out it's all a beta test for Mechagodzilla. So then they're like, where's actual Godzilla? Turns out he's sleeping underground. We have to go down and get Godzilla, wake him up. And meanwhile, Mechagodzilla is dressed up as Godzilla and doing his thing. So then Kong and Godzilla have their like dominance fight. They have a tie. Mechagodzilla shows up, they fight him, and, you know, you do the whole, like, operatic movie score over scenes of massive urban destruction. That's what I think the storyline's going to be.
So pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be great, I think. All right. Pacific Rim will still be better, I think.
Yeah, like I told you, there's a Pacific Rim anime that just popped up on Netflix.
Saw it. Does the same style of animation as Dragon Prince. I don't know if I'm into it yet.
Yeah, it's not that great. It's a lot of guns.
Yeah.
I know you're not a fan of guns.
Yeah, they're fine.
Okay, well, let's get on to what we do, right? Let's get on to this. Now, this part of the show, like I said earlier, I send Dylan rapid-fire text messages of idea after idea after idea. He sends me ideas as well. Like, it's not just one-sided. He sends a lot of ideas as well. Mine are obviously more involved. His are way better. And we wanted to work on some of these. So this part of the show, what he does is he normally reads a text message of something that I sent him, and we kind of work on it with your help. So, but I think he's got something a little bit different this week. He told me to prepare. So I'm gonna pitch it over to Dylan.
We're changing up the format this week a little bit because we're not accountable to anybody except ourselves and McManhattan and IBM TV and the people who bear Patreon and the people, you know what I mean. But what we're doing this week, because it's been a long week for both of us, I'm not going to go too far into details, but we've had some real life events occur this week, and we haven't had a whole lot of time to discuss just talk. Like Zack and I have, been kind of absent. I've been out of state, and we haven't had a whole lot of time, at least on my end, to invest some mental currency into creation. So what I think we're going to do. Last week was just a little rushed, I think. It was good when we did the monster, kind of like extra-dimensional monsters break into our world, and then they use like prison labor to fight them off.
The podcasters, podcasters that find the monster thing, and I think I end up calling it the Edge of the SHIV.
Yeah, we can change it up until we publish it, but I
think it's a pretty good title.
No, it's fine. It's good. I thought we would develop that a little further into an episodic thing.
Cool.
Because we've got a whole bunch of backlog ideas, but this one really kind of caught our imagination. I had some people text me afterwards saying it's a really cool idea. So I say we figure out like we keep it relatively achievable for what we can get. So 10 episodes at most, which I just think 10 episodes limited series is great. Fred Carroll's in the chat. Hello, Fred. Hi. I got nothing else to contribute. Yeah, it's good to haven't seen him in a while. But we're going to.
Did you happen to see, Dylan? Did you happen to see that cool video that Fred made for our show?
I haven't seen it yet. No.
Oh no.
If you want to send that to me.
Yeah, it's pretty cute. I think you'll like it. He made you a tiny 5-year-old boy, and he made me a very beautiful woman. And I think it really summed up our show well. So I'm excited to see.
We are all about inclusivity. So yeah, perfect.
That's true. Yeah, I'm
children
excited to see
and
our
women.
first commercial. Yeah. So thank you, Fred Carroll. Also, hey, honestly, if you're watching this right now, go check out Fred's show. Fred is awesome. He's a very accomplished writer, very, very funny man. Has a very funny look, which always makes the show that much better.
Hilarious looking. It's great.
So
we're doing Edge of the SHIV. So I was trying to think up, when I saw that that's what you had titled it, I was trying to think up acronyms that SHIV could stand for, and most of them started off Strategic Homeland Intervention. No. Doesn't quite work. That's been taken. We'll figure something out. So I was thinking I like prestige TV where you have a lower number, higher quality episodes. So like 10.
Okay.
Yeah,
I love that.
Fred, we meant that exactly as you took it. Watch the whiteboard. Watch the whiteboard.
Oh no.
Like, oh man,
Classic.
it's like watching someone get mugged in live TV.
Yeah.
So I say we do 10 episodes. We start with a 2-part pilot, which is the one we did last week, where a bunch of podcasters meet up in the woods. They're pursuing individual leads. They stumble across a monster fight, the site of a monster battle. And then they meet some folks in the woods who are a band of effectively forced labor. Like they're prisoners who have been given a chance at reducing their sentences if they will go out into areas of temporal anomalies, I say, time-space anomalies, where the barrier between realities is weak, and they fight these monsters that come through and wind up kind of either forcing them back or capturing them for study or straight up killing them if, they're really bad. The podcasters try and help them out because they're in the middle of this. We realize that the prisoners are kind of the cool guys, and they wind up, I think, liberating them and getting on the run, kind of, because now they're being pursued by SHIV. Right? That's kind of how we wound up doing it. Yeah, at least for the TV show. I like the idea that they're kind of doing this vigilante style.
No, I think that's great, and I like that it is the team of the podcasters teaming up with parts of SHIV to be like an anti-SHIV organization, whatever that's going to be. And yeah, I like this being. At first, when we talked about it, it was a movie concept, and as we're just talking about it being like a series, I'm like, yeah, I can actually see this similar to like a movie, like a Monster of the Week kind of series. We set it in different like locations, and they have to find the place. Yeah, I think that's all very cool. So what we did last week was pretty much the pilot episode. Then,
the two-part premiere. I say we do that as a 2-part.
A 2-parter.
Only because like you have these shows that are generally like, a 45-minute episode or a 22-minute episode with the occasional 2-parter. And I say we do a 2-parter to start and a 2-parter finale. Just so that way we can kind of like make sure the story beats fit where we want them. So episodes 1 and 2 are what we developed in the previous episode, which ends with them kind of on their own as a group with this secondhand gear. And they're like, what are we doing? Well, I guess we're hunting monsters.
Mm-hmm.
Episode 3, I think, is them. So I'm seeing the overall arc of this going. They tackle 1 or 2 on their own, and they realize that they are not well supplied or funded or backed up at all.
Mm-hmm.
So episode 3, maybe 4, is them doing like a real cheap, like, they got to be really clever about how they use the equipment they have. They have to be really clever about how they face these threats. And then in 4 or 5, they meet up with a different organization that rivals SHIV. Either like the good guy hunters. They're like the catch and release kind of guys who catch it, tag it, and release it back into the wilderness, which is actually just the alternate dimension it came from.
Cool.
And then from then on, so that's like the first arc of like the first 4 or 5 episodes. Second one, we do a few more Monster of the Week where they now have the backing of this opposite group that's opposite SHIV. And then the last 2 or 3, like, you have the big 2-parter confrontation. Maybe the last arc, maybe the last 3 or 4 episodes leads up to a confrontation between SHIV and this group they've fallen in with.
All right, I like that. Okay, so episodes 1 and 2 we went over last week. Easy.
Yeah.
Episode 3 is going to be the re-upping of supplies, and probably one of those like heisty kind of things where
learning the ropes. Yeah.
Right. All right. Episode 4, they meet up with a different team, and then they kind of gain like a mentor or whatever. And those people probably don't really play by the rules, but are on the right side and doing the right thing.
Yeah.
What do you think would be a mid-season finale? Like, say, episode 5 of this 10. What is something that's pretty big?
I say that's them getting comfortable. Maybe we lead up to a time skip afterwards. Like, they've been doing this for a few months now. And I think we foreshadow that Shiv has like an ulterior motive with these things, whether it is something as dramatic as like opening a permanent hole in reality that they can either, explore through or harvest or mine or whatever, or we can go as a large scale as just breaking reality so that there are no parallels and so that everything is one. But I think that might be a little too much for season 1. Or it could be as low stakes as starting a zoo.
Well, I like the idea of using maybe these interdimensional things as fuel or as some sort of resource, because I think it needs to be something slightly devious. That way they can play it off as like, these things are attacking Earth. We got to get rid of them, but we're actually just crushing up their bones.
So I'm going to propose they are looking to open up a permanent hole in reality, and the exchange of energies or something along that can be harvested to fuel stuff, like as a power source. But having a hole in reality for that long draws attention, so it risks just fracturing, like crack. You have a hole somewhere. As stuff passes through, it starts to crack around the outside.
Yeah, and so I think what is that? Is that letting bad things in, or is that just letting more things in, or what is the downside of the cracking of the
all
hole?
Of the above? I think we start off with it just being like we've got another. Oh, what are we going to call a manifestation? We got another one manifesting, something like that, maybe. And then the encounters start coming more often, and then they start coming everywhere. They start becoming more common everywhere. And then they start honing in on the facility or something like that, or like reacting violently.
So that actually could be a really good precipice for what's happening here. Is like they just got this hole open, and the cracking is making random anomalies happen everywhere. So they're like sending out like little sects of the SHIV units, and that's where our people are kind of like catching them because I think that's cool.
So I think we foreshadow that in episode 6 or 5. Let's do 5, where we get. I think we pepper throughout in early bits. Like in episode 3, they heist some supplies from a SHIV facility, and they see they have like containment units for these things, and they're like, well, that's weird, but it's not. It's not out of the, they were saying when we were working for SHIV, one of the prisoner characters, like when we were working for SHIV, they said that we weren't always exterminating these things. Sometimes we were capturing them. Never said for what. We always assumed they were private collectors. And then episode 4, we have them like, episode 4 is when they meet the good guy group. So I don't think we foreshadow anything in that because that's all present plot. Like that's all immediate plot stuff.
See, I like the idea of the people not really knowing what the agency is doing with these beings. I like them even maybe lying to them, saying like, "Oh no, we're just taking them to the one export hole. There's like many import holes, but like we got to get them to this one facility, which is where they can put them back. But they're actually just like killing them or whatever." I think that's cool because we don't really want the military in here to be bad.
This is all Black Ops science stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so then in 5 is when we learn that the cracking of this temporal hole is causing a lot of other things to happen. And then we got to get all the way up to the confrontation of the first head of SHIV. So what is like the next little bit of the sequence look like?
Hold on. So what I've got so far is episode 4. In episode 4 we have like an offhand comment about SHIV having a portal machine that can induce these holes, where they're like, they have a way to send these back. They don't always keep them here. Sometimes keeping them here makes things worse. So they have a way to send this stuff back. We don't know where it is or what it is, and we don't worry about it yet because presumably their technology is not advanced enough to maintain a stable. Let's be gross. Let's call them abscesses.
Sure.
Universal abscess. Which it just punches a hole in reality to the nearest kind of aligned alternate universe. I think 5 and 6 are mostly Monster of the Week episodes with some plot development, but we hint at and episode 7 is a Monster of the Week that gets a little too far. That goes a little too far. Like they have like a really intense encounter with SHIV, like a specialized SHIV unit, which is combat.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, we don't know why they're defending this one so bad. And then as they run away, they see that they're like capturing this one and taking it. And they're like, we got to find out where they're taking these. And then 8, 9, and 10 are when they go to the facility where they're capturing these things and like dissecting them for pharmaceuticals and makeup and processed food. Yeah. And then they find out that they have a permanent portal they're trying to make stable enough to generate power from. And that is attracting all of these things across reality.
Yeah. They're using these weird things for fake meat for vegans since it can't be tested as earth meat.
it's not any meat we've ever seen, and that's good enough. If I know vegans and I know a lot of vegans, that's enough for them to just eat it, no questions asked.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay, now what is the size of these abscesses? What do they look like?
So it depends on the types of monsters we want to have. Are we thinking like, so I'm going to go to D&D right now. Dungeons and Dragons has a lot of different monster groups, and a lot of fantasy sci-fi has kind of taken inspiration from that. You have elementals, which are creatures that are the personification of various elemental forces. So you have like beings made of fire, beings made of earth, beings made of lightning, and they generally just get called elementals or golems. You have monstrosities, which are naturally occurring magical beasts. So, like, monstrosities in D&D might include, like, what is like centaurs, deriders, which are griffins, gorgons, and then they have aberrations, which are the result of magical experiments, which are things like land sharks or cats with like needle tentacles on their back, like really weird stuff. And I say we go really weird on this one. I don't want to do elementals because elementals are like, I don't know. I'm bored of them. Yeah, they're boring. Yeah. And monstrosities are fine, but I say if we want to get really out there, we go like the Mist style.
Yeah. I'm definitely into aberrations. I think that's cool. Because I don't want them to be too big, like kaiju style.
Nah.
I like them being human size, maybe a little bigger.
Yeah.
Because then we can maybe put one on the team somehow, and that's always cool.
Yeah. Oh, like a monster. Like we have in episode 3, they do like a lot of like, we got to wet our feet on this. You got one of those trackers. It's like, turn the frequency all the way down. We're finding small ones. And so it's them busting a bunch of like little dog sized monsters. And eventually one of them is like cute. So it becomes a team mascot, becomes a Slimer of the group.
Yeah. Love that. Okay, cool. So we still got to figure out what the last arc of this is going to be.
I think it's them breaking into the SHIV facility and finding out what they're doing.
So is that you think that's episode like 8 or 9?
I think episode 8 is them kind of realizing what's going on, and episode 9 and 10 are them actually pulling it off. We have a reversal at the end or something. Maybe they've been doing this for decades. We do that thing where it's like, U.S. power grid's been powered by this for decades. You're way behind on stopping us.
And all right, so 10. Now, what is obviously in shows like this? There's always the end, like the finale of each season, which is at the time the biggest thing they can think of. Which, when you get to season 2, it's like, oh, that was just a little faction. What is their goal at the end of this? What is the tiny sect of people trying to get to?
SHIV has an extra dimensional base. And they're operating exclusively extrajudiciary,
so they're shutting down the portal.
I think we reveal like in a stinger on episode 10 where it's like, sir, the California group has been disrupted, and then it zooms out and it shows that they have moved their operations extra dimensional. So they have an extra dimensional like place that they've set up an external operating base, and that's where SHIV is actually headquartered.
Cool. All right. So we'll have like the destruction of like the mini base, which doesn't really mean anything because they are huge and intergalactic.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So let's work on our team.
Yeah.
What does a team look like?
So we have
some podcasters.
Yes. We have the cryptozoologist or the monsterologist. We have the true crime. And we have the UFO guy? The Mythbuster, the skeptic.
Yeah. Now I'm assuming one of these has to die in the first episode.
I don't know. I kind of like team of 3. We can add a fourth and have them die.
Well, or I think they gotta like pick up at least 2 members of SHIV.
Well, I assume they were operating with a group of prisoners that they had freed in the first 2 episodes.
Okay, cool. So
there's like 5 or 6 even.
All right, and then episode 3 they pick up their pet.
Yes.
Okay, cool. And okay, so it starts off with them investigating a bunch of stuff and then learning that there's this interdimensional conspiracy going on where this pseudo government agency is trapping interdimensional aberrations for fake meat, for fuel, for makeup stuff, and because it can't be tested properly because it is obviously out of the world. Whatever. They're using it for their own stuff, medicinal purposes, whatever.
Not tested on animals.
Yeah, tested. It's like every time they find one of these, it has like a bunch of makeup on it.
We do that scene from Alien 3 where it's like, kill me, but it's just got this hideous like caked on makeup.
Just so much lipstick all over its face. Okay, so I like that. And then in episode 3 is what we're going to do. They kind of hit a couple of the little mini raid missions, break up little things, and that's when they find their little pet. They get a little more supplies. They learn a little more about SHIV. In episode 4, they meet up with this new team. Let's talk about this new team for a second. Who's this? Yeah. What's up with this new team?
So I'm imagining it's a small group. Not a member of like a major organization. Maybe some of them are ex-SHIV. Maybe it's like an ex-SHIV, like a higher up who went rogue and like recruited his own team. And I think that's when we can kind of expand this setting a little bit. So there's an underground like monster, not monster hunting, like subculture, but a group of people in modern day who are aware of these monsters and kind of, call them wranglers. Not slayers. We make them like descended out of cowboys, and it's like, nah, they're wranglers.
Cool. And so what the wranglers do is they go to these little mini aberration spots and stop the heist of these aberrations, right?
Yeah. Actually, you know what I kind of like? I kind of like the Wranglers not being like a single team, but they find like a maybe the SHIV prisoner leader who works with them was like, we were always told like, we got to raid this one spot, but we never actually went through. And then it's like the rough and tumble bar in the middle of a city, and they go in and everybody's decked out in like monster hunting gear, and they have to like team up with 1 or 2 monster hunters every episode, or they like stumble across one on the same hunt as them, and they're like, no, we're here to take care of this. Like, nobody's paying any bounties on these. If it helps us all get rid of it, let's just do it together.
Yeah.
Like that sort of thing.
All right. Yeah, I'm cool with that. So they randomly come across wranglers throughout the season. I think that's great. Episode 5 is when we learn about the hole cracking, and then random apparitions are coming through without SHIV knowing, and that's obviously causing a problem. And then we also learn about their portal machine to, I guess, whatever.
Yeah, maybe they run into a wrangler who's like, "Hey, my husband works at the power grid company, and this known SHIV hotspot has been drawing a lot of power for the last few months in bursts, but at regular intervals. They're running something there. And I can't think of anything that would take more energy than punching a hole in reality." And they're like, "Okay, bye." Like, thanks. All right. And we knew they were we knew they were taking them back somewhere.
Yeah. Okay, there's a bit of a time skip here. We learn more about info. Okay, so episode 6, what's this looking like? So this is after the knowledge of the cracking, after the knowledge of the portal machine, after the knowledge of the wranglers. What are our heroes going through?
I think this is after a few months time skip where they have become proficient at what they're doing. So this is a straight up monster hunt, but they're good at it and they're well equipped. So this is kind of like a fun chance to really have a weird monster that means they have to show how clever they've become at facing these things.
Cool. And so episode 6 is going to be just almost a fluff episode.
Yeah,
where
it's
we're
almost
just
like a bottle episode. Yeah.
Yeah, where we're learning that they are proficient with their things. They probably have a new team member. They know what they're doing. They have successfully had a few missions, and now SHIV officially knows about them.
They finally start seeing that they are no longer the new wranglers on the block. Like, they start seeing these new people show up at the bar, and they're like, they start getting, when you work at a place for long enough and you start getting asked for advice, they start getting asked for advice. And they're like, we don't take people on hunts. We don't want to draw that sort of attention. Like, they're like, we don't really take new people on. They do take one, because at that point, halfway, we introduce some new young hot shot or something like that. Yeah. Someone who fills in the gap.
Sure. Okay. And then, so what is the push of 7 to get up to 10? So 7 has to be the confrontation. They're moving up towards breaking into SHIV.
I think we present this starting as a normal monster hunt. They realize that this monster is kind of a higher level, or to use video game terms, it's like a boss monster or something like that. They're like, this is a really like wide abscess. We got to be careful on this one. They're getting hit pretty bad. Like, it's a rough hunt. Someone gets hurt. I don't think we kill anybody yet. I'm not seeing this as like a high lethal thing. I think we injure someone badly, and we have to wait to see if they recover. And partway through the hunt, they get either radio chatter or they intercept like a SHIV unit coming in who are very heavily equipped and looking for this thing. And that's the push. They're like, why are they doing this now? This isn't where they normally do this. They came for this monster or something like that.
Yeah. And that's the push to break into SHIV.
Yeah.
Okay. So what
they tie this somehow to, this is a really mean one, and that power grid thing has been going regularly now for a while.
All right, cool. What would you say the ending looks like? I know that we have after the break-in, we have probably some sort of explosion of this thing. How do you see the season finale of this thing going?
I'm seeing them. I don't know how we want to take. I like the idea that SHIV is actually operating off dimension, like they're external. And I think
so. Is this a thing where we find out that we could? Sorry.
No, go for it.
I was gonna say, is this a thing where we find out that, like, after our heroes stop SHIV from working on Earth, we like shut that all down, right? But that's when we find out that they're actually doing this on other planets or in like orbit or something.
I think we hint for the characters. I think the characters get the knowledge that SHIV is worldwide. They're like, we can shut down their West Coast region by blowing this facility up, or destroying it, whatever. But if you look at, and then they, it does a slow zoom out of the map on the wall with all the dots, and it's like, some dots with the little waves coming out of it to show abscesses, and then you have maybe like whatever Shiv's symbol is going to be. It's like a knife breaking through, like it's an upright knife, and it's breaking through like a half circle line, like it's a knife piercing a barrier. I don't know.
Okay, that's cool.
And we see those symbols representing Shiv bases, and they're like, I thought this was a localized thing. It's like, nah, they've been setting up franchises. Not in those exact words. It's just the easiest way. Fight Club really nailed it as far as like setting up what you are, what the equivalent thing is.
Yeah. All right, cool. So where do you...
Stinger is at the actual headquarters. They're like, we got to find the headquarters. It's got to be one of these markings. And then the Stinger is them not realizing that Shiv's headquarters is not in our realm of existence. It's extra reality.
Cool. Okay, and earlier you mentioned that you did not like the name Edge of the Shiv.
It's a little wordy.
I don't know. I mean, Lord of the Rings.
I don't know if it's wordy, but I don't know if I like Shiv in the title.
Okay.
Yeah,
because I was trying to use like multi things, like it's a the edge of the Shiv, like being like this is the part where like Shiv breaks apart, but also like it's the piercing part. We also need to work on what Shiv is an analogy for. That's
true.
So it's maybe harvesting interdimensional. I don't know. Okay, so if this season is the culmination of podcasters stumbling upon something crazy, meeting somebody else, learning about this interdimensional thing, shutting it down. What would you say a season 2 looks like?
Season 2 is them doing a little bit of it starts off with them trying to globetrot. Like it starts off with that. The first third, maybe half, is them like hunting down Shiv bases and trying to shut them down. And then they realize that it's bigger. And it maybe ends with them attempting to... I'm seeing this as like a three season thing, maybe.
Yeah.
It ends with them launching an attack on the Shiv home base and failing. So so all the Wranglers are scattered. Shiv seems to have solidified. Yeah.
So these podcasters go off world?
I figure eventually, if they're fighting monsters, it's that sort of thing where it's like you leave your home, and if we want to have them continue podcasting, we can. For sure.
Yeah, I like that. I like the continued podcasting about this, and then people maybe thinking it's like a fictional show.
Yeah.
Because obviously, they're trying to cover all this up. Okay, I think. All right. So last time we talked that Shiv was the organization of the prisoners that go there and help, but they were under control of a company I think we called Mallet or Mullet. Was that right?
Yes, we had. I don't know if we were taking that 100% seriously.
Yeah, I wasn't sure because I do like Shiv working for somebody.
Yeah,
and that way, like their name isn't in the title.
Okay. I mean, we could go like all out wacky in like the second and third season, where it's like this long-term group of like world hoppers is attempting to make Earth, like we go crazy on it, where it's like, turns out these monsters are what happens when the multiverse expels, like they're like the universe's white blood cells attempting to stop people from crossing these barriers. And
oh, cool.
Shiv's Shiv's parent corporation is like a hundreds or 1,000-year-old group of people who are using it to like completely mess with natural law, completely go crazy with it, where it's like,
yeah,
what are you talking about? 1,500 years ago on Earth, a group of people learned the true nature of reality when they were visited by an aberration. They set up an organization that hops through the multiverse using ancient texts, and everybody's just like, "Are you serious right now?" And he goes, "Prove me wrong." And we zoom out, and they're like on a rock floating in like a pink void or something like that. It's like, yeah. So what do we do? I mean, what does your body do when your antibodies kick up? Let the antibodies deal with it. Now, okay, but imagine that you had like a group of blood cells that were like rogue. Like you had wranglers in your bloodstream. What are they doing? I guess they're hunting down so we're going to be that. And then the third season is them attempting to like maybe even destroy reality hopping tech. Like they're trying to prevent SHIV from being able to move across dimensions.
Yeah. I think that's cool. Okay, so what if you had to cast our heroes with actors now? Who do you see as like the people doing all this stuff? Because obviously, like we're a big fan of fan casting our own stuff,
right?
So we have a monsterologist, a true crime person, a mythbuster, a couple ex-prisoners, and then someone to do the mocap work.
So this is a little bit of fan service on my part, but I think either the monster hunter or the true crimer is Henry Zabrowski from Last Podcast on the Left, because he is an actor, and this is very much what he would do. And I think he'd be a very good kind of like, he'd be the crazy one. He'd be the crazy prepper guy. He'd be the cryptozoologist or the true crimer. I'm seeing...
Yeah, I got him as a true crimer.
Yeah. I'm seeing just kind of like character TV actors. I don't think we need big names for a lot of these people. I think the head of SHIV needs to be someone big. Who's an actor which actor has been in like media about hopping realities? Like, is there a particular actor who's well known for being in like either a time travel or a dimension hopping series or movie? Like, you don't. Okay,
I mean, obviously, you don't want to go Nick Cage because that's insane.
Yeah. So I'm thinking like, I finished the 12 Monkeys TV series last week, all 4 seasons. Mm-hmm. It's great. One of the characters, one of the main bad guys, that's only introduced in the 3rd season and only shows up in like 3 episodes, is played by Christopher Lloyd, because he's a time traveler, and that's like your fan cast a little bit. So like we get. I don't say we need Christopher Lloyd, but I say we need someone who's in like a monster heavy franchise. Not Vin Diesel. That would be fun.
No.
Maybe Vin Diesel could be like a Wrangler vet.
Yeah.
Like he shows up in he's like shows up in like a cameo as like a real like badass Wrangler fighting monsters, and then he's gone for the rest of the show. Because we don't need any Vin Diesel doing his stuff all over the screen.
Yeah. Okay, a lot of the times, Dylan, we write movies, we write single stories. Now, as a writer, what do you think are some things to keep in mind when you're looking at writing like a series?
I think it's important, especially on something that we've mapped out kind of like this, to have every episode be self-contained enough to be satisfying to just kind of catch. You know, like you need to be able to hop in at a certain point, while also being rewarding to watch in sequence and to come back to. Yeah. So if we're doing hypothetically 3 seasons of this, I think we pepper in a few hints of what's to come even super later. I don't know. I don't think we do time travel. I don't think we do any sort of like, you know, something unexplained happens, and then in the 3rd season we explain it away as someone time traveling back to the 1st season. That's very rewarding to see, but it's been done very much recently.
Yeah, it's also one of my go-tos.
Yeah, well, me too. It's a great device, and it's a great. True. Admittedly, it's a little bit of tooting your own horn, because you're like, hey guys, look what we had planned all the way from the beginning. Yeah. You know, for good reason. It's a great payoff. But I think we do stuff where it's like we have characters show up, maybe watching them, and then it turns out it's like a wrangler. I say it like in the second or third season, we really introduce the idea of a wrangler who gets lost in space and pops in at random points, not as a Deus Ex Machina, but as a way of being like, this is what can happen when you mess with the space-time barriers.
Is that Salt?
No. I like the idea, but no. No, could be. I mean, that can be our big celebrity cameo. Is like Vin Diesel shows up in like the third episode ever, and you're like, "Wait, was that?" It sounded like Vin Diesel, but his face was covered. Shows up at the end. Shows up at the end of the first season. Unveils himself. Shows up in the second season episode like 4, and it's like he gets him out of the tight spot and is like, "Listen, I gotta tell you," and then he blinks out of existence or something.
Yeah,
and then.
Cool.
Shows up again a few episodes later, continuing that sentence immediately because he just hopped.
Yes, right then, yeah.
Yeah. That's something to figure out in 6 weeks when we come back to this idea for season 2. So I think it's important to keep consistency. I think it's important to make it fresh while also making it accessible.
Yeah.
And I don't know, just maintaining that kind of like flow so that way you don't have a whole lot of dead episodes, or like you don't have the Great Divide from Avatar: The Last Airbender where people just skip that episode entirely.
Yeah. I think it's something that we struggle, at least that I struggle with when coming up with a story. It's like, hey, is this a movie idea? Is this a single, singular storytelling device? Can this be something that's like, because you obviously don't want to get into the Lost category where you're just writing stuff to keep it going. Yeah. So I think it's very important to have your story down, to understand who your characters are and really what the point of your project is.
Yeah.
And I think this is a cool way to do that, because what we did was we started this with just one movie idea. It was a quick idea of like, hey, here's these people that do this. But after, sitting on it for a week, you realize that this actually might work better as a series. And what we did here was we just turned a weird movie idea from last week into a 3-season, at least the first season, kind of a story arc. So I think it's cool to understand what your story is and what you're trying to tell within that story.
And I think it's important also to not get super attached to any particular thing, because ideas evolve, and a lot of times they evolve in a really good direction. But the thing is, you have to be willing to entertain the idea that what you initially created is not going to be your final project. And we've seen that a little bit with how we're making this movie the short film we're working on, where it's like, we had some stuff in the early drafts that we had to cut. We had some lines that we liked and we had to cut just based on that. So it's important to not, if you're really, really in love with a specific idea, that's cool. But oftentimes it's like, I go back to a lesson I learned early on when I was big into building with Legos. My sisters destroyed it. I could rebuild it, and it would often be better. So don't be afraid. I think in most industry conversations about writing, you're going to hear the phrase "kill your darlings." Don't be afraid to take this idea and completely turn it into something else, because sometimes that something else is better than what you had originally. It's not solidified until it is in the audience's hands.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it is something that I'm learning. It's, I have a couple stories I've sent to you, and I'm like, I love this story. Don't mess with this. But after working on it and turning it into something else, it's like, oh, this is actually way better than I thought.
And I've had some things I've sent to you where I'm like, I want to do this. And you're like, okay, but what's the story? And I just go, and so like, remember, a setting does not necessarily make a story. You got to put characters and things in there.
That's cool. All right, man, we got to wrap this up. We went a little bit over time. But thank you guys very much for watching, commenting, anything. If you like what you see, review, subscribe, share it. comment, anything at all. You can find all the weird stuff that we do up here at somenobodies.com. If you want to help us out and throw some money our way and help us produce more things, like Dylan said earlier, we're making a movie currently. We're almost done shooting that thing. We have a whole bunch of stuff in the pipe works. But if you do want to be a part of what we're doing, you can go over to patreon.com/somenobodies. We also have a GoFundMe for our film. We're really trying to, we have a great production team.
We've got a fantastic team.
Yeah, our director, Savannah O'Neill, has such a beautiful vision for Dylan's story. Travis Eklund, who is our cinematographer, has the coolest visions for what we're doing. We're very, very happy with everything. We would like to make sure that we can pay them back. And so we would like a little bit of help with that. So, yeah, once again, thank you so much. You can find us everywhere, really. We have a new show called The Real Boys, which comes out every Monday. You can find us on Talking Upstream on Sundays and Mondays here on Scene Snobs. You obviously have this live show on Tuesdays, which we call Twitching UpStream, where you can just yell at us or tell us our stories are dumb. No big deal. You can find me throughout the week at random things like Talk Creative to Me, even popping up on Jeff Dwoskin's show with my new show called the Netflix Metrics. Yeah, anything at all, please just look up Some Nobodies. I appreciate it. I have been. Oops, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, you can. I don't show up on nearly as many shows as Zack does, but you can find me anywhere at Vorpal Words on the internet.
That's true. Yeah. Look him up. He's very clever, especially on Twitter. I have been Zack Wiseman. He has been Dylan Terry, and you have been awesome, and we appreciate you. Until next week, bye.
Take it easy out there, everybody. Especially now. Things are crazy.
Yeah.
All right.
Please, chill out. Drink some water.
Yeah. Bye.